Belial, horny trickster, pranking you to the ends of pandemonium. Fan favorite and making you both love and hate him at the same time. And his raid debuted fairly recently as one of the few high difficulty V2 raids for Granblue fantasy. He brings a lot of pain to the party, so why do we even bother putting ourselves to suffer this type raid? Well, you need his drop loot to get the next tier of Dark Opus keys, and also for uncapping the level 150 Transcendence for the Eternals. Yep, 30 pieces for each Eternal, a lot of pain, right here. Thanks KMR! This vid's gonna be covering the following sections, though it's gonna be focusing just on the solo quest version. I'll be handling the raid side more one in depth in another time once I have this. Alright, so we'll be covering these, finding the quest and prerequisites, comparing Belial versus Lucilius versus Beelzebub, the mechanics, triggers, team setups, grids and summons, differences between solo and raid, and of course final conclusion. Timestamps included in the description below. Before we actually dive into the nitty-gritty, you could actually find the quest over here. Over in the second continent of Nalha Grande and in the Edgelands areas, and you need to unlock chapter 111. And from here, there are a few requirements you actually need to clear before you can actually start the story, which is rank 170, clear the story, clear the side story, what makes the sky blue 3 or 000, and of course, clear the Dark Rapture raid. These requirements sound annoying, but if you're keeping up to date in most things, you should probably already have cleared it by chance. Thankfully, they're much simpler than what you actually need to do to prepare for the actual fight itself, which by no means isn't easy. As for the Dark Rapture raid, it's the 30-man version, and so you could get it done by just leeching it, thankfully. But you would probably like to have to clear the hard 6-man version so that you can get the Dark Opus 5-star uncapped done, because you're gonna need a lot of damage as much as you can to do what you need to do. For high difficulty rates, we have 3 candidates so far: Lucilius, Beelzebub, and Belial. How do all 3 compare? Lucilius is a V1 type raid and relied a lot of phalanx teams using all elements in the initial days. Adding to the raid wide, there was the death counter of 6 characters overall, which was nerve-wracking being the first time it was introduced into the raids. Nowadays though, with developed grids and characters, people have gotten used to the triggers or made loopholes around them. Yes, thanks Kank. Beelzebub, however, is a pain in the ass kind of guy. More solo oriented raid compared to Lucilius, but it forces you to play by his elements or suffer. Adding to that, with the maximum turn count of 25 at a full rate of 6 means you need to put in the damage, and that is gonna be a bit tough. Second to that is also that losing characters is a major sabotage to everyone, because when your character dies, he restores HP and makes him hurt a lot harder for a few turns. This in turn becomes a chain reaction then where everyone dies. Belial is somewhere sort in the middle. You don't have to have the greatest damage, and you actually benefit by having team members in the raid, though he trolls you to Kingdom Come with his gimmicks and can party wipe if you aren't careful. Adding to that is that Belial is more resistant to having E-Focus out due to a buff that cannot be removed, which can hinder the raid or the quests. Belial though seems to be remaining in high use in the raid version due to his skill set. First off, his normal attacks is multi-element and hit all allies. Mirror image doesn't work that well compared to Beelzebub, but dodge still works. Praise to Dark KMR. Worst of all, below 50% you have a chance to be skill sealed on each hit for 1 turn. Similar to Beelzebub, having a character knocked out will boost Belial with a climax buff. This buff will accelerate charge diamonds and grant other buffs, making it harder in the long run and ruin your day. Worst of all, it's unremovable. That said, playing Evokers remains open on the table, but it's a lot riskier to manage than Beelzebub, where you could do it early and negate the effects. The most important mechanic to note: delays. Belial's quest relies a lot on not letting him reach full diamonds and trigger party wipe. Yes, including backlines on that one. So delays are quite important, similar to Beelzebub. However, using any skill to delay Belial will net you 6666 damage to the party, plain damage. Repetitive delays via skills will rack up the pain fast. So how do we handle that? There are a few options that won't get you zapped every time, which is currently first, Ogi based delays. Second, skills activated on dodge/counter. Lastly, summons, but there's a catch, and I'll cover that in the teams and summon section. Next one up is the apples. Every 3 turns, you will cast an apple debuff onto your party. These debuffs are color coded and will activate by the corresponding skill color. So, if you see a red apple, then you use an attack skill, you trigger it. There are currently 4 types of apples. Red, which consumes 50% of your current HP, but you inflict back to Belial 20% flame damage. Green heals party for 15,000, but also fills up one of his diamond charges. Yellow reduces skills cooldown by 2 turns, but drains all your charge bar back to 0. Blue inflicts an additional delay, but the caster receives 10k plane damage in return. These apples last for 2 turns if you do not want to trigger any of them, so you can wait it out. Though, the preferred ones to use is usually the green and yellow depending on the circumstance. You'll need to see the situation to determine whether you can absorb the risk. However, there is an additional apple that is based on the separate triggers here, which is the purple one here, which I'm mentioning here in the diagram, which is giving you a CA reactivation, but at the cost of 7.5k plane damage to yourself per charge attack. Yes, so this one is a hit and miss, especially when you're low on HP or nearing a trigger. Next up, on hitting 50% HP, Belial removes all debuffs on himself. He gains a damage cut nullified and a Deceitful Fallacy buff. This means that you can't bring his HP down to below 40% unless you do 15 million damage in 1 turn. The damage cut nullified removes all chance of using all elemental damage cuts such as Athena skill 1. Also, there is a trigger attack that deals based on the Dark Motives level, which is up to 30k plane damage per level, and you start the raid with 2. To get rid of these Dark Motives, you need to clear the Omens, and it helps you too in the long run as it helps him to do no more shenanigans. Now we move on to triggers. There are 3 types of triggers to be concerned: fixed, looping, and the full diamond charge. I'd like to warn in advance that a lot of these triggers will have the same names, so you need to take note during the timing so that you will know which type of trigger it is. There are 5 key fixed triggers to consider. 1 at the start, 75, 50, 25, and last of all 15%. Omens, however, are looping. They are based on 2 types. They start on the 3rd turn and repeat after every 6th turn. The second on the 6th turn and repeats after 6 turns. That means you'll be having them cycling every 3 turns more or less. Last but not least is the full diamond charge. There are currently 2 types. One is triggered based on the 100 to 51%, and the second one is 50% to 0. The most important ones that you have to consider is between 50 to 0. However, the 100 to 51 also has some major drawbacks if you fail to clear it. Alright, I'll be covering the triggers in turn now. First of all, we have Lemmageddon on the start, where you'll be dealt 19.999 plane damage to the party, and he gains a Cunning Wings buff, which is essentially plane damage counter when you delay him, which is part of the mechanics. This start trigger cannot be dodged, similar to Lucilius, 30k and on the start. Next off is Asmodeus at 75%. It's a 13 hit random element, random ally attack, and it removes 2 buffs from your allies, and the current conditions to cancel it is to use a Dispel. Asmodeus comes back again at 50%, but this time it gives you an additional plane damage based on the Dark Motives level between 0 to 60k. This cannot be cancelled, and to reduce the Dark Motives, like I mentioned earlier, you need to clear the Omens. Coming in at 25% is a Goetia, which is a 16 hit random element attack, which inflicts 2 debuffs, which is slashed and supplemental damage. Current cancel conditions for those is to use a Fated Chain. Alright, 15%, you've come to the final stretch. Belial will remove all debuffs from himself, fills all his charge diamonds, and will be ready to trigger his full diamond charge attack. This means that it's imperative that you delay him immediately or it's an instant party wipe. Now we go over to the looping omens. It is Goetia on the 3rd turn and repeats every 6 turns. 16 hits, random elements, inflicts 2 debuffs, slash and supplemental. The cancel condition for this omen is 12 million damage in 1 turn. 3 turns later, you'll be meeting Lemmageddon, which is going to repeat again for every 6 turns, which is going to be render element, removes 2 buffs from your team, and the cancel conditions is at 100 to 51% is 35 hits, and from 50% to 0 is a dispel. Now we move to the full diamond charge, Asmodeus again, but 400 to 51%. It inflicts 3 different debuffs which cannot be removed: charge bar down, DA down, TA down, and 30% maximum HP lowered, and this is stackable. Taking Asmodeus below 50%, however, it's 30 hits of plain damage and it's an instant knockout. So taking Asmodeus above 50% will hurt, taking it below 15% is instant game over. It does not care auto revive, lethal damage taken, nothing whatsoever. Delay is the key to surviving this trigger, especially so in the last parts of the run. Since Belial is elementless, choose your best team that can fit the following needs: the DPS, a delay, attack, defense down stackable, healing, sustain, and dispel. It's gonna be hard to give a precise answer to what you need depending on what you have. However, there are some good options and setups which can be used, which I'll cover a little bit on the later side. In the meantime as well, down in the description below, I've actually included some reference videos from other GBF players, so if you'd like to see those in depth. So, main character class. What are some good options that we can use? Tormentor and Lumberjack stands out as the first option since both classes have a lot of valuable utility. Masquerade also fits as a decent alternative with giving field effects and giving the right TA at the right time. Robin Hood too makes a good choice because it allows you to spam skills and break omens, and especially when you combine it with certain characters, a lot of fun. Doctor also works if you need more sustainable options. As for sub skills, Miserable Beast does not work, so you'll need to rely on attack and debuff stackables. Clarity is a good option to remove debuffs from Goetia. Dispel to clear omens, or raid skills for damage and hit count. Straight off, Primal has a distinct advantage over Magna due to the excess of garrison based skills. That said, Magna can still clear, but you gotta be more careful because Belial hits hard, so you need to put more HP to account for it. Just a reminder that Seraphic doesn't work, so you can swap it out for more damage or HP based options. So ideally, you need to achieve a good balance between HP and damage so that you can achieve the 15 million Ogi on a full chain with or without damage burst skills, whichever goes to your liking. This is to help clear the omens, making it more easier. And most importantly, also remove the Deceitful Fallacy buff, which blocks his HP from dropping below 40%. Also, note that for main hands, you can use some options to do what you need to do, like such as dispel or maybe even provide delay on Ogi. So earlier on, I was talking a lot on the importance of delaying Belial. So here are a few options that you can consider, such as Fiowa, Summer, Summer Ilnot, Cagliostro, and the like. Look-wise also, there is also the based on counter or skill based, such as Tanya. These are very good options that you can consider. But do a special note out for Siegfried that his third skill does not work in delaying because of its special function. Coming up next, the summons. Delay summons such as Micaiah and Dark Angel Olivia are good choices. Heal, buff, and charge bar summons can also go a long way to help out in providing utility or as a major stat stake. Do note that Typhon do not work due as it clears charged diamonds instead of providing delay. This is why I was mentioning earlier about Siegfried, this is the same case as him. Killian and Huanglong are good options for emergency, or it can be vital also depending on what team comp setups you are using. Just another reminder that to check on all your damage based summons, since Belial is elementless, so you can it might not be a very good choice to put him in, but some certain types such as Hangman and the Sun can be also a good alternate, can be pretty good wise due to their call effects. With the addition of the new sub-aura summons, definitely HP boosts Arcarum summons or the other type of standard gacha summons are a great way to boost HP without removing utility. But some might ask, what about Belial? Really depends, you just have to make sure that you have the HP to make up for it. Now that we covered all possible options for characters, summons and weapons wise, what type of comps do you want to go for? Well, of course, you have 3, standard, dodge base, or skill bomb teams. such as EO or Lobelia types. So now moving on here as well, I'll be covering just a few sets of recommended characters to build your team with for each element. So for example here we have Fire, Christmas Nemo. For utility, Tian can give some damage and hit count. Athena also as well defensive side. Likewise as Zeta, double dispel, double delay, although it can be hurt, it can be painful, but it's an option, alternative. Metera as well with delay, skill damage. Anila for Magna as well with utility and healing. Sturm has actually a great delay, although it is a bit RNG based. And of course, likewise, Antaria is a great dodge based healer. Coming out next now is on the water side. Coming over here to the water section, we got of course Fuhrer, Summer Shalem, Vajra, which can provide delay and dispel with some good damage. Societ likewise can delay with healing. And as well some eventual attack stackable down, definitely down. Europa, some good healing. Drang also has some delay and healing inventory mixed into his kit. Poseidon as a great general purpose unit. And Anre as 130 can actually help to do a lot of damage mitigation and also damage itself. Third right off right now into the wind. And of course we have our favorite duo, Andera and Urius. The linchpins of all hard raids. We're now with Samakorwa in the group. Likewise, we also have Siete that can provide extra charge bar and some good hits and attack while being strong as well. With Tiamat, multi-purpose. Katra also multi-purpose. And likewise, you have also a Grand Monica with multi-rolls, Time Grimnir, and Societ covering more on the healing and multi-hit aspects. Starting next, Earth. Mahira's great for buffing. Elixir gives a great defense option. Lobelia, of course, is Lobelia. Summer Ilna delights the Vey option. Narmaya is great utility all around with her and damage cut. When really the worst case scenario comes, Octo, of course, is our eternal Ogi god. Soris gives a lot of hits and can be quite useful, especially when you're near down the last bit. Sarasa, of course, is major damage. As for my preference for this raid, I go with light, of course going for the EO bomb. So as you know, 5th, heal, CAG, oh that's so sweet freeze. Noah of course gives you that one turn unchallenged with charge bar for EO at that time, and of course a dispel with a debuff. Almal is great for healing, general purpose utility. Agloville with the attack stackable down. Delafield of course a healer. Albert with the double delay, especially if you Ogi you can get quad, and it's also a very good option for EO bombing because you have 4 skill. Tico if you really need the extra heal and a lot of debuff cleansing because she is great for that. Last but not least, Dark. Dark has plenty of options to go with. You want the Ogi, Delay, Lich, Clarice, or you can go with Tanya as well. Delay on dodge, 6 of course just his 6 hurts hard. Shalem gives that great debuff and dodge and shield. Ray is a good in to help swap out for Tanya because when you can give a buff to dodge and likewise give a permanent debuff on Belial. Black Knight is great for providing some substitute support while attack stackable and death stackable downs, and also keeping your weak units alive. Antoria and Cerberus now making interesting healers, especially if one can dodge and one gives multiple hits and also some good utility on that. Solo versus raid, what's the difference? Well, there are some profound differences, so I put it all up here in a nice table here to make it easier to compare at first glance. For example, Dark Mode is, in the solo version, you start with 2, raid 10. Summons wise, there is no effects in the solo version, however the raid version has a 2 turn skill cooldown, so that makes killing a very bad choice, usually in the worst of times. Third triggers aside, Lemegeton removes 2 buffs, while in the raid version there's an extra caveat of an extra diamond charge, and also there's another different type of trigger which is Anal Genesis, which is with multiple versions of that as well. And on the HP level, he's invulnerable at 14% until you did 15 million damage. In the raid version, he's invulnerable at 5% and you need to have another trigger for it to be removed. Last but not least, Raid version gives you 5 other raid members ahead. All in all, we've covered the following points: how we found the quest, these mechanics and triggers, characters and possible setups, and the basic difference between solo and the raid versions. I'll be covering more on the raid versions in the next video, but I think this is more than enough to kickstart your preparations for the Belial solo quest. All the best and wish you best of luck. If you have any questions, feel free to drop it down in the comments section. Maybe also like and subscribe too. So stick around and see you next time. Peace.